Oh, you got some friends there.
Welcome, welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday. Oh, yay. Some familiar faces and some beautiful new faces, some on screen, some off screen. Just going to wait another minute or so to let a few more people join. If people have intentions to be part of this conversation today. And I hope you're all enjoying the beginnings of a beautiful day. Feel free to also put into the chat where you're coming in from and where you are. It's always nice to see where people are geographically located. You're also welcome to kind of drop a word in or two around how you're feeling. And we'll begin in just 1 minute. I'm just going to wait one more minute. Aha. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Dana. Just down the road now. Les, San Diego. I was flirting with that. Huh, Massachusetts. Beautiful.
I'm so happy you're here now, finally.
I can't wait to give you a hug. I'm ready for that, Dana. Let's make that happen soon.
Very soon.
Por favor.
My mom is supposed to be joining.
Oh, bless.
And she met your dad in her kitchen when I hosted my schmooze there.
I love that.
We're all connected.
Indeed, indeed. Ooh, Kimberly, I was left Topanga. It was one of the great loves of my life. And I love hearing that you've done some family work. So beautiful, so beautiful.
Sorry you left, but you're always welcome back whenever.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've got a lot of community there too. It's really nice. Ooh, and we have someone from the UK. Beautiful. Good evening, Brazil. Beautiful. All right, well, let's just drop in real quick before we go into a deep dive on the topic matter of tripping with our parents. So if it feels all right for you, you're welcome to close your eyes. And just notice what's alive inside right now. Just taking a couple moments to maybe do a body scan to track your energy, any sensations, any emotions, and welcoming all of them, all of it. And an invitation to take a couple longer, fuller inhales and exhales. And notice what you feel when you bring your mom to mind. What comes up for you when you think about your mom? And when you feel into the energy of mother? Taking a couple of moments to shift gears into dad and notice how you feel and what comes to mind when you think about your father. And for those of you on the call who are parents, you might just notice what it feels like to be a mother or a father, and to sense into all of the beauty and all of the delightful challenges of what it means to occupy that role in life. And of course, we're all mothering and fathering ourselves along the way. So coming back for just a moment to you, breathing really big into your heart, into your body, into your being, taking another couple breaths here. And whenever you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes and come back to the screen. Hello, 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 everybody. Good afternoon from Mill Valley. I am about 2 weeks old in the Redwoods and loving the beautiful transition of arriving in a new place and space and time. And it feels really good to be here with you to talk about my most favorite thing, which is family work. And for those of you who are new to me, my name is Lauren Taus. I am a human, first and foremost. I'm like really trying to do this human thing well. And what I know about my experiences with psychedelics, which are many, I have flown the wings of many things many times, and I've been shown and grown so much, is that it's all for here, right? It's all for how do we do this life better? How do we do this dimension better? And I like to say that people participate in psychoactive substances for one of two reasons only. One of two reasons only. Hello or goodbye. That's it. Hello or goodbye. And generally, we meet the departure with a lot of judgment and often jail. And I want us to be a lot more curious about what's going on there. I'm, as of course, also a psychotherapist. And I went into graduate school because, like most therapists, I had my own pain and suffering, and I wanted to kind of understand what was going on inside of me. And I wanted to be in service as well. I have my own kind of journey of being a human with the kind of difficulties that show up along the way, like the circumstances. I was once upon a time a pretty successful anorexic. I'm really grateful for that experience. I don't have that problem anymore, but my eating disorder journey had me sitting in 12-step circles in rooms for about a decade. And in those spaces, I learned the potency of relationship and community. And that drove me to deeper study and wanting to be a therapist for a career. At the time, I decided to focus my efforts on addiction because my mother had one. And by the way, I really don't like that word. It's pretty reductionist and very diminishing of an emotional process that is called pain, and where people have difficulties that they don't know how to manage, right? Like when our experience is bigger than our capacity to handle it, like we need to go. And so bless the departure. And my mom had a lot of departure. Like my mom had a lot of departure. And I have so much compassion for her journey. I have so much compassion for my mother's journey. And I have so much compassion for mine, because as her daughter, as a young person, I was pretty pissed off about it. And I have a lot of reverence for both of our journeys. I want to say as well that at that time, I would have zero expectation for myself to be doing the work that I do now. Of course, I specialize in psychedelic assisted therapy. I'm MAPS trained and very close with the team over there. I absolutely love the empathogens, the heart-centered medicines that get us into our bodies and into our hearts. Of course, we need to get out of our minds sometime, right? As Alan Watts said, to come to our senses and to have different perspectives about what's going on in our lives and in our systems. So at the time I was looking at addiction, and I ended up doing my clinical training in a drug and alcohol treatment facility that was populated by people who were there as an alternative to incarceration. And I had a real front row seat to the war on drugs and its absolutely excoriating impact on the lives of countless people in specific communities, of which I'm not a part, but like had a really, really intimate front row seat to that. And that has very much informed my journey and my advocacy. Like I'm a drug advocate. I will advocate for every single drug on the planet. Thank you, fentanyl. Like, thank you, propofol. If you need a surgery, like, cool. Like, I just had a colonoscopy. Sorry if that's TMI, but like, you're out and you're back and it's fine and it's done, right? And as a therapist, if somebody needs to be stabilized on an SSRI or an SNRI, like, good thing we have these tools. Like, they should not be forever tools, We need to be tended to in good caring connections so that we can, partner with these different medicines in the right ways as best we can, right? Like this human thing's a lot. And I ultimately came to psychedelics through my own suffering, it was suffering. And, all of our efforts to to get away from pain, all of our efforts to get away from pain prolong our suffering. And so we get to kind of really be curious about that. And curiosity is such an essential word in the work that we're all doing, right? In all of our different ways. So let's be curious, and let's be curious in this conversation too. Again, my suffering brought me to psychoactive medicines. I like to say I was far too busy being skinny and good in high school and college to engage in any of these sorts of things, much less think about them. I was a straight A student. I thought drugs were bad. I was not going to do them. I was always invited to the parties. I didn't go. And you can have recreational experiences that are very divine and transformational. But I didn't do any of that. And it was through family, ultimately, that I found my way into this kind of work. My brother invited me to my first journey. And I said yes, and then I said no. I backed out a bunch. I kept being like, no, I can't do it. And I thought it was going to mess up my food and make me fat or whatever, and I just couldn't go. And then eventually I did. And my first experience was profound, and I knew that I would continue to journey. I didn't understand how psychotherapy could dovetail with this kind of work until much later. But when I did understand that, I got very, very excited. And as a therapist, I also focus on family work. Why? Because I've never met a client, myself very much included, that didn't have mommy daddy issues, right? Any therapist that's on this call knows that we're also talking to mom and dad when we're talking to a client. And what I know from my work is that if I'm able to invite and engage with other family members in a client constellation, I become exponentially more informed and impactful. And I just want to say, as a therapist, I love my job. I find it an outrageously interesting and extraordinary privilege and really, really meaningful work. And I also sort of hate that we all need so much therapy. It makes me very sad that we aren't generally getting our needs met in our own relationships, and that so many people have to go outside of their networks of connection to pay for care, to pay for somebody to listen to them and really to love them. And that's where we are. So I'm happy to do the job, but I want less therapy. And my goal as a therapist is to take myself out of a job as quickly as I can. I want to fire myself as quickly as I can. And so what that means, and I actually had a client say to me recently, a young person, she said, Lauren, working with you, I figured out quickly that if I wanted more than an hour of relief a week, I needed to do things differently outside of the office. I needed to start talking to my family and having hard conversations with my family. And so she did that, and then the results start to kind of happen. And of course, we all still need support. I have a therapist, right? I think most therapists should have therapists. And I continue to engage in my own process. I swim in other people's shit all day. In some ways, I feel like my highest level when I'm doing my job well, I'm a toilet. And it's limpia, limpia, clean up. How do we flush the system and get really present and really clean in our lives so that we're meeting the circumstances in a good way? And again, primary architecture of our existence is always, always going to be our families. So, Ram Dass's, quintessential quote, if you want to know how enlightened you are, spend a week with mom and dad, right? It's real. So many people want to go out and change the world, big dreams. What is it like with your own family? And usually it's complicated and nuanced. And there's a lot of clogged pipes, if you will. What I notice as well is that as a medicine person, and I love medicine work. I also want to name that I love the integration of medicine worlds, right? I love Western medicine. Left alone, it's a little bankrupt, but partner it with the natural medicine worlds, and you've got a much more dynamic system. And I come from a lineage of medicine. My father is a physician. My grandfather is a physician. My uncles are physicians. My mother was a nurse. And I'm a therapist. This is what I do. And in many ways, I think that we are living in a world where medicine is trending, but relationships aren't. And when we're doing medicine work really well, our relationships are improving, and the qualities of our connections are improving, and our ability to do this life thing is improving. So I have done a lot of work in my own personal family life to be able to support others in doing the same. And by the way, I had a lot of work to do. I mentioned that my mother, I work for her. She is in the ascended dimensions, she left her body 10 years ago. I know very fully, completely in my own system that she would have lived longer with access to this kind of work that we're talking about. And so for the missed opportunity of so many mothers, and for the missed opportunities for deeper levels of healing and connection, she's my boss and I work for her. And I've also had the incredible privilege and opportunity to have successfully converted my father to the realms of psychedelic experience. And that is one of my greatest accomplishments in life, if not the single most great accomplishment. We'll talk about that more, and we'll talk actually to him a little bit about that more. But it's again, we're gonna trip on our families, likely you're gonna trip on mom and dad, and you're gonna like have these kinds of different experiences, and so here we are having this conversation. So how do we get into it? You know, I myself am really an ayahuasca girl. Like I host several retreats in Costa Rica a few times a year. If anybody's interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me separately. And I've also done a ton of work with ketamine and other medicines. And you know, I immediately wanted my family to do this kind of work once I started it. And I've been in so many circles where participants don't tell their families. Their families don't know where they are. And like, it's not just in terms of geography, like their families kind of don't know where they are. And I want for there to be more closeness and more connection in how we're navigating our existence. Now, this is a complicated conversation because you all are already likely converted, right? I'm imagining that most of you have already had experiences of your own that have been very rich and fertile, and that perhaps you've already tripped with your parents. So this is, you guys are like already in. But perhaps maybe your loved ones aren't quite there yet. And I understand that there's a lot of stigma still. Again, starting my career in essentially the prison system, and in a world where like people think that drugs are dangerous and bad and harmful, and that the people that do them are immoral and dangerous and second-class citizens. And it's a scary conversation for a lot of people. And how we have the conversation really matters. And it's important to have the conversation. David White says, start with the conversation that you don't want to have, right? I love that. And I like to say, easy conversations, hard life, hard conversations, easy life. Like, how do you manage what lives inside of you and doesn't want to be expressed or seen by the people that are closest to you? Like, that really determines the quality of the connection. Now, again, I made the rookie move of going on a big conversion agenda immediately after beginning this kind of work. And I started having conversations with people that were like, what are you saying? Right? Like, this is very weird. And it is quite weird. If someone's totally uninitiated and you talk about becoming a Black Panther or a leaf, or like, seeing some sort of like Egyptian goddess and getting anointed, and you start going into these stories with someone who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about, it's like quite confrontive and probably an unattractive invitation, right? But there's ways to really have to open up the conversation that are more likely to create success in outcome. And always holding, I think, curiosity as the kind of at the front of the conversation versus conversion. And again, I was on a conversion agenda. I remember telling a loved one, oh my gosh, you have to do this. You have to do this. And he said, I get that you're calling me to the experience, but like that medicine's like not calling me to the experience. And it was really helpful to hear that, because this is for those who choose it. And of course, so many of us want for our family members and our loved ones freedom and peace and forgiveness and connection. And perhaps we've gotten there with these tools. So how do we do it? How do we have these conversations? I think it's really important to educate, right? How do we unpack the stigma that has been so tightly held culturally, right? Like the set and setting for most of these substances is still illegal, right? It's still like not okay. And so there's tons of research. And I think, bringing information is antidote, is like an RX. So whether that's something more pop culture, like Thank You, Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind, or, the MAPS research on PTSD, or all of the research that's happening for different conditions. We were just talking, Maxwell and I, about psilocybin for Alzheimer's, or for different conditions, like to invite people to look at the science and research. Now, my dad, I want to share the first conversation I had with my dad about me having an experience with psychedelics went like this, and I love this conversation. I was with my brother, as I mentioned, and he and I had a trip the night before, had a journey, and we were with him, and he asked us what we did the night before. We looked at each other. And there was this pregnancy between us of like, woof, are we going to tell the guy what we really did? And I did. I said it. And I only realized in the aftermath how radical the telling. And my dad, with his thick Bronx accent, said, "You fucking doing drugs?" He said, "What the fuck is this? You went to fucking Colombia. Like, what the fuck?" And was quite uncomfortable with the whole thing and very scared by it. And understandably so. But like any good doctor would do, started to do a little bit of research, right? He started to do a little bit of digging into like, what is my kid doing? What are my kids doing? And I'm blessed to have a father who deeply trusts me. And so while he was afraid and uncomfortable, he started to kind of like look into this a bit more scientifically. And the data that he discovered, which will be the case for anybody who's doing an authentic intellectual inquiry, was producing information that comforted him and gave him a sense of like, I think this is an okay thing for some people. Because then I was inviting him and sharing things like that were bizarre. Like he probably had no concept for what I was talking about. And, what? And he said to me, "Lauren, like, I understand those clinical applications, but I don't fucking need that." And I said that because again, like the science and the research is shifting gears a little bit, actually quite a bit, but has tended towards, clinical issues, like clinical problems, mental illness. There isn't an abundance of data and science yet in any of these areas, but certainly not for folks who are well. And so my dad was kind of like, "No, thank you. Like, I'm good." And my response to him was, "Yeah, Dad, you're good. You are good. You don't need this. Like, you don't need it." But the story that I tell myself is that you can have more access to your heart and be more of who you are. You can be more authentic. And so he just sort of received that. And it was a couple of years, by the way, guys. It didn't happen overnight. And my brother would say that not in a gazillion years would he have ever anticipated or expected my father to jump on the psychedelic bandwagon and be a journeyman. Like, no way, no way. So for those of you sitting there being like, no, it's not going to happen for my parents, I just invite you to suspend any sort of disbelief or doubt, and to hold your own, right? Like I held my own, and I was forthcoming about my experiences, which I like to believe probably impacted him in a visceral way. I'm imagining that he probably saw me doing better, and he certainly saw me studying. He certainly saw me in very real training programs. And again, this is about the data piece. I'm sharing my experience as a means of inviting you to your own, but there was information that was real. And I was the real life kind of example of what it could look like. And eventually, he said he'd like to give it a try. So the most important piece here that I want to emphasize is educating your family members, educating them with science, with data, And of course, so much, like, I'm a student of the mystery first and foremost, and like first and last. I'm a student of the mystery. I have friends at research institutes across the planet. I have even advised research at universities, but there's so much more than that. For folks who are really uncomfortable with the conversation, it's a really good tool to give them. And it can really demystify and give them a context from which to engage with this kind of subject matter in a way that feels safer and more comforting. And and I'm also just curious, and I will later invite more discussion, conversation. You're welcome to post questions in along the way. But what stops us from telling, right? Like in that moment with my brother, I don't know that he would have told my dad. What stops us from telling the truth? It's a really interesting question. I mean, usually it's fear or shame. My dad likes to say you got two choices, fear or love. And if you choose fear, you choose wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be scared, right? That doesn't mean that these things aren't scary. They are. But like, what would love do? So I'm curious about what stops us from going into deeper connections and truth. My dad also likes to say, only the truth weathers well, right? So there's an intimacy that you're inviting, even if the answer from your loved one is no, thank you. And you can respect the no, thank you. We don't need to like bang on their doors. There's no need for anyone to do anything. But everybody who's ever done anything has been invited at a certain point, right? Everyone who's ever been to any sort of experience like this did get an invitation. So you get to be the invitation. And I think that there's a really important way of meeting people where they're at, like having tools around how, like sharing with them. Don't preach to anybody, right? Like that, and any sort of like, you have to do this is usually not going to go over well either. And there's language that I think can be helpful. I know this conversation is called tripping with parents. Like tripping might not feel good to mom and dad. That might be like, ugh, hallucinate probably doesn't feel good for mom and dad if they're brand new to the conversation. Things like I was in direct conversation with God also might not. I mean, it might. It depends on like perhaps there's a religious context that a family's holding. But talking about how you felt maybe more connected to yourself, maybe sharing about a difference in perspective around how you looked at your life and certain happenings in it. That could be really helpful. You might not want to say like, it blew my mind, right? Like, I mean, just being nuanced about how you're speaking is usually very helpful because words are powerful. And, staying open in the conversation. You don't get it. Like that's going to close the conversation down immediately. If they're concerned, like ask them about their concerns. Talk to them about what their fears are. My dad was afraid that he'd lose his mind and never come back. It was scary for him. And you don't, make sure you don't want to like tell him, oh, you're closed-minded, you don't get it. And of course, like parents are triggering. So as I understand. Things like ego death or non-dual might feel a bit aggressive at first. Getting too clinical jargony, like, like going into too much clinical stuff is like, talk to them like humans, talk to them like children even. Like, how would you approach a child asking questions? And just stay open. For me, again, like I've never met a client that didn't have mommy daddy issues. Almost all of my clients are going to interface with their parents in sessions. And whether that's a session with medicine or a session like that's not, like where are the patterns coming from? And even if the parents aren't involved, right? It's like my mom lives inside of my body. And so for those of you who may have departed parents, the healing and the conversations continue. And that's very welcome. But we get to be in the space also of sort of rewriting family narratives and bringing more healing in. And of course, I think we live in a world where the elders are not respected as much or honored as much as they should be. And so for me, it feels very important to invite them and to think more about them. And, Yeah. So I'm actually gonna, at this point, invite a special guest in to this conversation. And yeah, I'm gonna bring my dad in now. Thank you so much. Okay, hi, Dad.
Hey, Donna.
He's so cute. Dad, I'm curious if you could share a little bit about what that moment was like for you when I told you that Steve and I had a trip. And if you could also talk a little bit about the context that you previously held about psychedelics as, as medicines, drugs, whatever.
Well, like you said, I was shocked that you were doing it. And then my context was really drugs are bad. That was really the central. So I really didn't see any upside to it. And then, as I got to learn and read a little bit, then I got more, courageous to figure this was, I'm willing to try it. So that's sort of what happened.
And the willing to try it. I remember being in this conversation with him and like, where do you begin? And I know even in the write-up for this particular talk, it's like whether you want to be microdosing or having that bigger doses. And Michael's asking, how long ago did you try? When was your first experience, Dad?
It's like 6 years ago,
And how old are you?
81.
Okay. So 6 years ago, and he's 80. So how old were you when you had your first experience?
75.
75, right. Okay. 75, guys. He was 75 when he had his first trip. Like, it's not ever too late. An old dog can learn new tricks if the dog wants to learn, right? It's really important to remember that. So, where do you begin? I think that's such an important question. Once he became open to the idea, and for those of you who are on this call, you might like have ideas for your parents. I want them to do this. I want them to do that. And it's such a good like question, like where do you begin? And he asked, and I had to think about that. And ultimately, I chose for him in conversation with him ketamine. And I chose ketamine because of a lot of reasons. Number one, it is legal and it can be prescribed by a medical doctor. And he's what are you, Dad?
An internist, a medical doctor.
Yeah. So medical doctor to medical doctor felt like the right connection. For many people on this call, like think about like where are your parents going to feel comfortable? Like they might need it to be like a medically supervised experience. And that is accessible. That can be done. So I also thought about who, right? Like you may not want your parents to trip on their own for the first time. Like that's AKA like, no, I'm not gonna like green light that one if it's their first journey. And my dad, I was like, he should probably be with someone that like he could relate to. So at the time, my mentor, Bill Wolfson, another Jewish doctor, with a same accent as my dad, different borough, same age. I brought them together. And how was it important, Dad, for you to have a sort of someone you could relate to?
I think that was really important because Lauren went with me, was together. And then once I was talking to Phil Wilson, I realized I could trust this guy. I had the feeling this is okay. And so then I was on board. And then it's been uphill since then.
Hmm.
Downhill, whatever you want. It was beautiful. It was a great experience.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And so we made a trip of it, no pun intended. We traveled from Southern California to Northern California to have this experience. And initially, my dad wanted me to, we were kind of in a discussion back and forth as to whether or not I would participate in the medicine with him. And initially it was yes. And then in the morning, he was like, you know what? I kind of want you to not be high. Right? I kind of want you to be present for this. And then he changed his mind when we were together. But that's also an important thing to think about. Like if you do get the green light from mom and dad, like do you want to be present for the experience? And how is it going to be facilitated? Unless you're kind of a real pro, you might want to think about inviting someone to hold space. A lot of things can come up. And so, Dad, your first ketamine journey, how would you describe it?
So after a few minutes, and this was an injection, Phil Wilson said to me, "How are you feeling?" And these were my exact words: beautiful. It's just beautiful. And
He also said on that very first trip, if you haven't tried this, you haven't lived.
yeah,
And he has, have you done a good amount of journey work since then, Dad?
Plenty.
And what's changed for you?
You know, I was happy before, but I would say, first of all, I've never been happier in this very moment. And my life is just so much richer. I'm more loving, more compassionate. I'm just the best version of me, and it's still unfolding. So I can thank psychedelic work for that. And the integration part, not just taking it. It's not a magic pill, you know, you have to work at it. This is, you know, it needs a lot of integration, meditation, thinking, writing, talking. But then sky's the limit on, you know.
And what's also changed for you personally, Dad? Like what gifts have you received as a result of engaging?
Oh, numerous gifts. I'm just so, I mean, I just feel, first of all, I feel wonderful about myself. I love myself. I love people. I love you. I love my kids more. I mean, it's just the intensity of my compassion is just so big. I mean, my main goal in life is to be loving. That's my main goal for me and everybody else.
And I'm gonna chime in here, Dad, because my dad is maybe my best case study, and the guy did not meet any sort of clinical criteria, and again, I'm sharing this with the hope and prayer that it is inspiring for you in your respective lives and relationships with your families. I had a difficult relationship with my dad growing up. I didn't like him very much. My dad is absolutely my best friend. And I have had the ability to process my anger and my sadness and my fear around my father as a child in the context of these kinds of experiences with him. And vis-a-vis these experiences as well, he's been able to hold space for me to have had the experience that I had, even though it was never his intention for me to feel anything other than loved. And my experience is that my father has deeply softened, has become much more generous, much more friendly, much more open, much more fun, like way more fun. Like this guy kind of wasn't that much fun. And wasn't that much fun. I mean, do you think you're enjoying your life more?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He also, which it was, my mother had a deep spiritual life and was not afraid to die, which was really, really a beautiful thing for me as her daughter in her dying. But my dad was a kind of pretty ferocious atheist. And do you believe in God, Dad, or some sort of
Absolutely. Well, I've been with God many times on different journeys.
Yeah.
So I had a discussion yesterday with a friend. We talked about this, and he's just more logical. So, you can't have a cognitive understanding. You can have a cognitive understanding of God, but you don't get the experience. If you don't get the experience, you don't believe. I believe now.
And my dad's mother and his grandfather lived into their hundreds, so God willing, this is the plan for this guy. But we're all going to do that death thing, and to be in closer connection with something beyond form is a gift in how we walk our lives as well. So I feel really great that I've been able to create experiences for my father where he now feels connected to the divine in the way that he understands that, and is much less afraid of what we all do, right? And so again, we're talking about our family systems, and I'm single, so maybe got any men for me. I'm available, but I've literally seen myself get married through my father's eyes in ceremony. Like I've seen and felt my father's experience as a little boy in ceremonies. There's so much that happens in these spaces. I've felt my mother's experiences in my body. I'm doing a lot of healing for my mother right now in my life. And we are all our parents' seedlings, right? They are with us. So as I mentioned at the beginning, as a therapist, I like to engage family members, specifically parents, as much as I can and as quickly as I can in a process with a patient, because those primary connections, when they get aligned, when they get wholly and aligned, shift an entire system very quickly. So for me, there's of course many ways to do this. Medicine is not the only one. It happens to be the one that I know best and that I know works, and that it can be done, and it can be done in a good way. So what were you going to say, Dad?
I was going to say, just telling my story, and I've told this to people that are my age, in their 70s, just hearing me tell the story has convinced them that it's okay to take some medicine. And I've made in the different retreats, I've made myself available. And if any of you need anybody, if your parents to talk to me, I'm available. I'll make that available.
And I think it's very special also to have this kind of story from a medical doctor, like from someone who kind of knows the physiology of what happens in a body, right? Because of course, there's going to be safety concerns. There should be safety concerns. There should be safety concerns. And there are contraindications, right? Like, how do we do this in a good way? What medicines are available, right? When we're talking about elders, like there are conditions that preclude certain experiences and not all of them, right? So also, Dad, I'm curious, like what advice would you have for parents?
Well, just what you just said, in all journey work, people, it's set and setting, and you need to feel safe. So having somebody that has some credentials, that's going to, take a good history, listen to you, do a physical exam, is going to make you feel safe. Then the connection that you feel with the person. I remember there was a person that I knew, a psychiatrist actually, and this psychiatrist said that the father that she had would never do this. And the father was also a doctor. So we made it at the lunch date. And after the lunch date, the doctor told the child, I don't want to say woman, man, that he was willing to do a journey, and I did a journey for him with ketamine. So he would the child was figured never happened. But after listening to my story, and that's what happens. And we've done that. Lauren and I have worked with some elderly people that they wouldn't have done it. I'm quite sure if they didn't have me as a doctor that they, that's on board with this, that it was safe. It was okay to do it.
And what creates compelling circumstances are both the information, the education, and then again, coupled with personal stories, right? So feel free to to take them up on the offer also. And also just to consider who else you might know who's been there and who's done that. And it's and in a good way, like in a careful, good way. I believe, as I mentioned, that recreational experiences can be absolutely transformational. I'm not too rigid about these things. And at the same time, when they are new experiences, for folks who are intending to really explore their inner landscape, to excavate what's been buried and what needs to be unearthed for health to happen, we often need care and someone to kind of walk with us along the way, before, during, and after, right? Like to really ensure that a person feels, like my dad said, safe enough. And and so, practically speaking, there's the what, where, when, how conversation, right? Once perhaps you've gotten them maybe to a green light, and you're tripping with your parents, by the way, irrespective of whether you kind of take any drugs with them. Like, this whole business of being human is a big trip. Like, life is the biggest drug. We're all on it. And we are tripping with our families. Like, we are, it's happening. And it can also happen with these divine substances, with these compounds, and with these plants. And it can happen in circumstances that might seem impossible, and like, absolutely, that's never going to be a thing. Educate. Information, personal stories, and be mindful of how you're speaking about your story, and be mindful about like what your intentions are, right? Like, what do you see as possible for a parent? Like I said to my dad, I see you in closer connection to your heart. I see you more authentic. This is what I see as possible for you, right? I want more connection with you. What is it that you see for them? What is it that you want for them? Maybe those are conversations that are triggering for them as well. So being really discerning about how you're speaking, but open and curious. And then if you get them to go, if you get them into a green light, then it's like, what are we doing? What are we starting, right? Like, what is the medicine? Is it a microdose? I mean, I have lots of adult parents who are microdosing and elders microdosing. There's many elders who are drinking ayahuasca. I've had many family members like join groups of mine, circles of mine, and literally drink ayahuasca together, mom and dad, and the whole thing, the whole tribe. There's of course like ketamine, that's legal. There's all kinds of different like tools. And I like to explain the tools as best I can to a person so that they can choose also, right? So that they can notice where they feel more compelled and most attracted. And again, safety first, ensuring that like these medicines are viable for the person's body. But like, this is a personal thing. This is a personal choice. And so to really present as best you can, to educate yourself so that you can educate them. Where does this thing happen, right? I really like to encourage that there be some type of facilitation and support, that there's preparation, that there's intention setting, that there's care involved, right? Like these are sort of obvious things perhaps to all of us, but they certainly wouldn't be to someone brand new. And we've all heard of people taking, 4 grams of mushrooms in their own living room, not knowing anything about anything, and then, ooh, wow, right? So really being thoughtful about where and with who and how it all happens, and safety, 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 safety. So anything else, Dad, that you want to share about your experience that you think would be helpful?
Everything really, when you said about, I always say it's either fear or love. So confronting whatever your fears are and really having a good discussion about what really is underneath it all is the beginning. So then you can have some courage, because it takes courage to do this kind of stuff, especially in the beginning. And I would always say something like ketamine is a great starter, or something like one of the heart openers, but you start giving too much of some of the other substances, people can have a really scary time. And not that it's bad, they could learn, but I think it gives them a sense of comfort, at least if they have something that's not too large of a dose.
Yeah.
Maybe a heart opener or ketamine is a great drug for. You just got to figure out what's going on inside of them, so you can pick the right one.
Dad, do you remember what your first dose was of intramuscular ketamine?
50.
50. I love that.
2 milligrams, which now is that would be a psycholytic dose for everybody. I mean, now for me, but that actually got me psychedelic, 50 milligrams.
And I'm curious, for those of you who are here, when you think about tripping with your parents, what does that bring up for you? Feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah, what kind of feelings does that bring up for you?
By the way, let me say one other thing. On the times that we've done, some substance together, my son-in-law and I, it's been the most absolutely fabulous, wonderful experience. I'm so loving. It just brings out more and more love. I can't imagine the kind of love that I could experience. It's just such a beautiful, healing and wonderful experience. And then if they have something to say to me, which they've said over the years, it's just so wonderful for them and for me, and it's just great.
Beautiful. So feel free to kind of put in there like what it would feel like, what you would hope for in tripping with your parents. And again, I just want to emphasize that every single client I've ever worked with is really working with their parents. And so when we're talking about healing, it isn't really a personal journey. When we're talking about health, we're talking about the systems that we occupy and that we're part of. And in part of our cultural illness is a self-obsession that gets played out also in the healing spaces. This is my healing. This is my healing. It's not your healing. It's our healing. And as you do it, you become an invitation to your family members just by being, right? Just by the way that you walk and talk and live. And that by itself is a potent invitation to them, right? Especially when there's transparency around perhaps how you're getting there. And I know for myself, so much of the kind of fuckery of my own human patterns was reaction to mom and dad, to both of them in their own imperfect, perfect parenting. Because I like to say that the ways in which our parents fail to parent us, they're parenting us to parent ourselves. And for any therapist and any healer or anybody doing work in this kind of alignment space, the better you are, the better you are. And you're only ever going to be as good as you are with the people that you serve and the people that are around you. And I am so grateful for the difficulties of my life that have invited me to continuously kind of work on the business of shine, right? Like, you know, a diamond gets kind of into its diamond form by going through a process. And I want to encourage forgiveness across the board, right? And I like to say you can't bypass the fuck you on your way to forgiveness. It's just not possible. So to the extent that there's anger at mom and dad, welcome, bienvenidos. Like, it's appropriate, right? I've had a lot of anger towards both of my parents, a lot. And I wouldn't be so pissed off if I didn't love them so much, if I didn't want so much, right? And I've learned how to love myself. And it's a practice, not a perfect. And it's a practice. It's like, I like to say, you can't stay clean on yesterday's shower. And so we have to be in this regular journey of like cleaning ourselves up and off so that we can show up in a really good way with our loved ones. And so that we can be the thing that we want for them, right? Like, I want so much for my mother's healing. And you know, I've had moments in ceremonies like realizing that I've been another person that was harmful to her, right? My mom had a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse. And in my anger, like, I was another perpetrator. And I understand why, and compassion for me. But like, how do we do this better together, compassionately? How do we see the thing that's happening with a broader lens to allow the multiplicity of truths to coexist, right? And again, like, we're all in the space of tripping with our parents. And I have seen forgiveness come, and I have seen reconnection come. I have seen it vis-a-vis individual experiences and group experiences. And, you know, we're so, again, individualistically oriented. We're so self-oriented in this culture. And so the kind of the radical move is to really widen that and to include and expand into our most intimate dimensions, which is with our families. So I would love to open it up to some conversation, some questions, if anybody has any. I have questions too, and I haven't been able to kind of see what people have responded. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you all. And I'm also curious what you hope would be possible for yourselves or your parents in a psychedelic journey together. What kind of gifts could you see emerging? And any questions at all that you might have.
I have some questions.
Please.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I've seen the transformation in my own life and with my husband and with my 23-year-old daughter, who is the person who brought us to the medicine
Bless.
a couple of years ago. And I have another daughter who's 28, who's not called yet to it. So no pressure. And we're just, yeah, no pressure. And then we have parents, and my husband and I both have 2 sets of parents each, who is very complicated, but we feel it would be beautiful in a lot of ways. My husband's already had both his stepfather and my father and his father come to him in a journey and have, in his journey. So, we think there could be a lot of beautiful healing. Having said that, when you guys did it together, I know your dad, Stephen, right? Hi, Stephen.
Sure.
I know you did it on your own first. You did ketamine, that felt safe and worked for you. What about when you guys did it together? And like, do you suggest that they do one on their own first and then you do it as a family? Or, because my mother's asking me, she wants me to go with her. She wants me to lead her in. And so I don't know, I'm kind of trying to feel into that. Do I just guide her, or do I also take a little myself, or do I do around the same? Like, so any thoughts on how to bring in, if they are willing and interested, and yeah, do they do it first? Do you do it with them? I know it's personal. I know and I'm trying to just feel into all that, but I'm just curious what you
Yeah.
took and kind of how much. If you did a high dose, a medium dose, and what you took.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And I love hearing that you've got one daughter that invited your family into this work, and another that's like, no thanks, and that's okay, right? It's okay. Maybe that will change, maybe it won't, but like that sounds like it's all above board, and there's no secrets around it, which is the most important part for me. And like you said, there's like no right answer here, although there's deep listening. Like, would it feel comfortable for you to do that? It's also like a lot to like hold space for mom and dad. Sometimes it's the most sacred, beautiful thing in the world. And sometimes it's like a little bit much, right? It could be a little too triggering. Um, do you feel like resourced enough to do that? Do you want to do that? Right? Like, just because mom wants you to do it doesn't mean that like you want to do it, right? Like, where's the alignment there? And does that feel like, how does it feel? Does it feel like I can do that? I want to do that? And if not, no, right? And then there would be a referral process, like to someone who could hold space for your mom, and you can be available after. Tell me everything. Like, I'm here for you, right? So there's a really deep listening that's required with this kind of work, and what kind of medicine, with who, right? With who? And that's a big kind of problem in the space, I think, is like really finding the right partners to support these journeys, and really kind of attuning. Like, do I feel good with this person? Do they have enough training? Like, have they done their own work? Like, are they legit? Like, are they what's happening here? So kind of getting skilled in that. With respect to my father and I, my dad's kind of caught up for a lot of lost time in the last 6 years. So he's got a lot of experience at this point. He's a good little tripper over there, and we've had a lot of journeys in all kinds of different formats. And I have held space for my dad, and we have journeyed together. That first ketamine trip was like I ended up going in with him because he felt safe enough, and then we got to really process and unpack and share together. We've been in group circles together, my father and I, where there have been other people that are not my family. I mean, in that particular circle, I raged at my dad. I was processing a lot of anger in that journey towards him, and he let me. And I'm really grateful for that, for him just like saying, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm sorry. And we've, had journeys just he and I together, and different things at different moments. My father's got a sundry list of medicines under his belt at this point. And it's a real blessing to have a dad that knows how to fly and can receive my feedback, and where I can receive his. In the course of our healing work together, there was a certain point where I believe I behaved sort of the way he did when I was a kid, which is sharp and harsh, and I was sharp and harsh with him a lot. And I said to him at a certain point, I was like, "Don't let me get away with that." And he said, "I've caused you enough harm in your life." And I said, "It's not helping me, Dad. Like, it's okay to just say, ouch." And I'm pretty sure I don't do that anymore. Maybe like once in a very blue moon, and I don't like it, he don't like it. But like, these behaviors can change. So along the way, I think it's really a deep listening, and being in spaces like this where you can ask these questions. But I would say, Kimberly, like, to listen to yourself around what would feel best for you. And, then doing the due diligence, because sounds like mom's ready to fly, around, like, if it isn't you, to find like the right person for her, where and the right kind of medicine for her, checking safety things, and then, what feels right from a relational perspective, because this is always relational work. Like, this dimension of form and finitude is about connection. Like we are all part of some like primordial one that we will return to when we leave these vessels, that these kind of flesh puppets. But you know, in this space of form, it is all about like how are we connecting to each other? How are we relating to one another? And how are we doing that like real close? Which is for me, mom and dad. So is that helpful?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I trained in psychedelic integrative studies, and I have been
Amazing.
guiding. So
Beautiful.
um,
Okay, so she's got it. Uh-huh.
yeah, this is the space I really want to be in and work with others. And so I do feel, I think there's a part of me. I mean, I've done a lot of work in my past, and I've gotten to the point where I can be in the room with my mother and leave and not hate her anymore. So I know I've come like a long way. Um, and I feel like, yeah, there's a part of me that feels this might just get us over that little last sort of bit, but also as research, and also so that when I move into these, when I work with other adults and their parents, I want to be able to have the experience and say, yeah, I've been through this with a parent or two of ours, of mine, or of my husband or my mother-in-law or somebody, right? Like I'd like to be able to really speak from truth and heart and experience in that, if possible. So I really would like to do it with my own mother first, because she's the one who's the most open, who's expressed the most interest. So thank you for and I think just, yeah, I need to continue sitting in my own, as you said, deep listening and trust. And yeah, and then, yeah, when I'm ready, I think, offer that up to her. Just make sure I think I'm ready, right? Make sure I'm clear and clean, as you said, in my own, work and space. So thank you.
And it could be also helpful, Kimberly, to just have someone with you.
Yeah.
You know, someone that's like on team with you, so that, you know, you can not have to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I know. Reaching out for help. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my word.
It's one of my favorite prayers, like help, thank you, and oh my God, are my 3 favorite prayers.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so
Appreciate it.
welcome. And I'm seeing Dave's question about wanting his parents to trip, and that they were abusive to him. Does it seem okay or crazy? It sounds beautiful, and what a gift that you want that for them, that you want their healing in spite of being hurt by them, and maybe perhaps because of what a beautiful prayer. I will hold that with you. You know, this guy's 81, he's flying around. I don't think it's crazy at all. They have to say yes, but I more and more I think it's so special and so important for the elders to be in these experiences, especially as you know, it's closer to end of life. You know, I mean, again, my dad's got decades as far as I'm concerned, but we're all going to die. And to kind of have a reckoning and a peacemaking process with life, and what's been done, right? Like to perhaps come to a place of understanding what happened and forgiving self. You know, like I've had family systems where there has been great harm in the system, and where I've told the perpetrator, like, don't spend your life in jail, walk off the cross. And I've told the victim, like, if you need to go to the hardware store for more nails, I'll go with you. And you know, until that's done, like until you're ready to be done with that, and where forgiveness is a natural, like authentic place to land in, where we all want to go. But yeah, absolutely. Like I bless that prayer and would encourage it in conversation and in action, if they're yes, and they're safe for this kind of experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm reading Jason's comment. We lost my dad about 10 years ago. On all my journeys, I felt him close, but yearned to know him better. I have gotten to know my mother much better, and in such a beautiful way, through this work after her death. The thought of journeying with my mom feels like an opportunity to know her in a way. Oh, where did I get lost that? In a way, never got to know my dad as well, so I would better know him and all that may lead. Yes, bless. Like, yeah, and that happens, right? Like these things can happen. And you know, I've hosted trainings for psychedelic assisted therapy, and you know, what I know is that people want to trip with their parents. Like they want the gifts and blessings that come from good practice in these ways, for the ones who've held them and birthed them. And what I know from personal experiences, that it's very possible. So does anybody else have any questions? Yes, por favor.
Okay, I'll go for a second. So I would like to do psychedelics with my dad, and some context about him is that if you have some recommendations as far as like how I could talk with him about it, I'll just give you some personal details.
Please.
He's only gotten drunk one time because he couldn't handle losing control. He's very much like into like having a lot of control, and also very much controls his emotions. Like he keeps his emotions very neutral. Even when he was like really angry, he would not raise his voice. It'd be really intense, but he would hold it in and not raise his voice. And I'm like mad at him for not like listening to my emotions growing up. And but I would like do you think that ketamine is generally like, I know that you did that with your dad, like maybe that's a good one because it can be served by a doctor currently, and he does like, I think that maybe would trust him. Or, and if not that, would you have just any comments about that specific thing of being like somebody who's really into having a lot of control, and also somebody that has not expressed many of their emotions, how I can maybe go about talking about it first? I made only later on would I actually be realistically planning what it might be like. But yeah, anything that comes to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. The first thought that I have is sorry to make a big statement like this, but like is patriarchy, which I just want to name is like sustained by both men and women, and it's our conditioning, and how harsh it is specifically on men, and how straitjacketing it is on the emotional life of men, right? Like that your dad has not been able to give himself permission and space to feel the bigness of what it is to be here, right? Like he's been controlled and measured, and like that, it's been how painful that is. And yeah, this whole illusion of control that we humans like to march around with, right? Like we don't have any at all. And it's sweet. My dad was into, probably in some ways still is a bit of a controller, way less now as a psychonaut. But like this letting go thing is hard and scary, and also liberating and amazing and exquisite, and like por favor, yes, please. So, does he relate to being controlled or controlling? Or is that language that he would kind of say, yeah, I do that?
Probably, I would say probably he would.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be curious about that for him. And I also just want to honor the parts of you that were angry for his inability to embrace your emotions as a little being, and as maybe an adult being as well. Have all of your feelings in full. Like that is the texture of life. It's emotion. And to really be good stewards of our emotions, and to feel fully, like that's what this business is of being human is about, like feel. And I'm hearing that you want that for him. And it could be even said like, Dad, like I noticed that it's more difficult for you to kind of feel bigger feelings, or to embrace mine. And I'm curious like about that for you, and I'm wondering if you would like to expand in that way, if that scares you. You could kind of talk to him about that. He might have resistance to that conversation too. You could ask if that shows up, be like, is this hard for you? Are you feeling resistant? Like what, you just get curious, like maybe I'm wrong. But I think that for many people, having some sort of like medical stamp, especially a new adult, a grown elder, would like, it feels safer. It's like, if there's a doctor here, I feel safe. Someone who's like gone to medical school and like knows how to make sure my heart's beating and my lungs are breathing and that's all okay. And I think ketamine is a beautiful, like very safe medicine, a really wonderful way to start. And it could be in all kinds of different dosing. Like it could be like a bigger journey, or like just a social lubricant, a softening, which could be done in connection with you or not. But again, I think that the ketamine is where I started with this guy, because of the medical nature of it, because it exists in a system that my father was part of, and by a provider who he could relate to and respect as another medical provider.
What was that provider's name?
Phil
Again?
Wolfson.
Phil Wolfson.
He wrote the ketamine papers. He's sort of a godfather of ketamine assisted psychotherapy. Yeah. Yeah.
And Stephen, can I ask you like how this like maybe how you've softened as far as being somebody that is like likes to have things really in control with psychedelics, and how maybe that's changed your relationship with your daughter?
Well, I was psychoanalyzed. This wasn't new stuff to me. This was years ago. So I was like she said, I wasn't like suffering and I wasn't unhappy. And so this just brought me to the more, I mean, I had a lot of cognitive information. Like I knew a lot about a lot of stuff from therapy and so on. But the psychedelics just opened you up to, who you really are. And you get the experience of everything, and then you got to put it together. Everybody's got to put it together. This just isn't like a miracle cure. But but I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that I was, maybe my daughter could say more. I was not like the way, I didn't feel like I was the way your father was, but I was controlling. I mean, there was no question about it.
There is an undeniable, palpable softening in you that like anybody who knew you before and anybody who knows you after like will feel and like it will comment on like that it's radical. And I think it does merit mention that my father did spend years and years and years in therapy. He had the courage as a man to pursue that kind of work. And as his daughter, I don't think it really did much. I mean, I hope it gave him relief, but like as his kid, like I didn't feel the benefits. The benefits of my father's tripping are outrageous and profound and palpable and quick.
Well,
And
let's
like,
face it, you can say, in one session with a psychedelic drug, you could get 5 years worth of therapy. I mean,
or a lifetime if it's done
you
in a good
can.
way.
So, I
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
I got those benefits.
yeah, and palpably. I mean, it's
For sure. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. My experience of my dad, and it's maybe not his, is that like his level of joy and appreciation and pleasure in life is much bigger. I mean, he
Absolutely.
listens to music all the time. Like before, he's like, turn it off. It's a racket. Like, there's music in the house. There's dance. There's like new friends. There's socialization. There's like spirituality. There's more dating. There's just like, he's good. Like the guy's good. He's a success case of mine. He's like one of my greatest kind of wins. And the story keeps unfolding as we do. And I hold him and our relationship and the transformation of our relationship because, as a kid, I would have said that I hated my dad. Like I said that. I didn't like him. He scared me. Like his desire to keep us safe felt scary to me. And I understand that he was always in devotion. I understand that now. And I've understood that through my medicine work. But like, I mean, my dad's my best friend. Like, I think he's the greatest dad on planet Earth. And like, he is so much more cool. And like, I mean, my friends hang out with him and love him. And it's like a lot can happen in a short space of time when we have the courage to engage in big conversations and to really get honest about what we want, what's possible. And it doesn't even have to involve drugs at all. It doesn't have to involve these things. Like it's like, you are changing the system by changing, you are becoming the antidote. And like in becoming that, you also just are a walking invitation to more of that. So, I like to just be brave and bold in the discussions and kind, right? Like it's like kind. And, I have so much compassion. I sat in a ceremony recently with my favorite medicine, my abuelita medicine, and like I felt the gravity of man, like the gravity of what it is to be a man. It's not easy being a man in this world. It's not easy being a woman either, but like there's different kind of challenges. And I get, Maxwell, that your dad's been carrying those and that you as his son want more liberation for him and more spaciousness for him and for you in your connection with your father. So yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very helpful. Yeah. I'll just be curious and just kind of talk a little bit about asking him about maybe see his curiosity around wanting to feel maybe some of his emotions that he doesn't feel comfortable having other people see.
Yeah, to be witnessed. That's a big one,
Yeah, and he actually did go to therapy for a little while and he kept it hidden from the rest of the family because he was so, I think, embarrassed by it, or he didn't want to look weak or something. Or he thought about it like it was just to support other people, not for himself. And Yeah.
Mhm.
But thank you so much.
You're
I know
so
we're
welcome.
almost at time, and I don't know if maybe it's one other person has a question. I see that Michael Skubik in the chat also had a question.
So if he is tripping, does that still count if he is tripping? I don't understand the question, Michael. You still there?
Michael, do you want to come on stage? It looks like maybe
Maybe
he's
he
not here
left.
anymore. Oh no, here he is. Michael, can I invite you onto stage to talk about this a little bit? I see him in the
Oh,
video
his
now.
audio's broken.
Maybe he's muted.
No,
His
he's-
audio is broken. Okay. Do you want to just oh, there he is. Michael, are you there? Maybe you just want to provide a little bit more context in the chat.
It must be muted or something. I don't know what it's.
Okay.
Oh, no, yes, because yes, being a doctor doesn't mean that you have psychedelic experience. It doesn't mean that you know how to, when there's so many MDs prescribing ketamine to people for therapeutic work and haven't done any of this kind of work themselves. It's like, this is not diabetes medicine. Like your dad's kind of expertise and skill set is not applicable here yet. He is wonderful that he has all that information and training, and like I bow my head to it, but we're talking about different things. So I hope that's helpful. Like different ball games. And you got it. You knew. And I'm sending you all so much love and so much blessing and so much peace to your sweet, sweet hearts and your families, to your parents, parents, and their parents' parents, to your children and your children's children and your children's children, and to the parts of the planet that you call home. To this beautiful jewel of a planet that we share. And I thank you for tuning in. I hope this was helpful and interesting for you all. Please stay connected. Like I said, I have retreats and trainings and a group therapy practice. If you or a loved one is looking for some help, please don't be shy. If you all want someone to talk to your dad or your mom, apparently my dad's happy to do that. So feel free to be in touch. And I'm wishing you all a beautiful rest of your Sunday wherever you are.
So how
Yes, and I like to say just one last thing too. Oh, Kimberly, what do you?
I was just, so I private messaged Stephen about that, and I wasn't sure how we reach out to you if we did want to.
Yeah, sure. So here's
father by you, who is much more of a difficult case.
sure. Reach out. My email is here. It's lauren@embodiedlife.com.
Okay.
And yeah, my website is here as well, embodiedlife.com. And yeah, sending you all so much love. So much love.
Thank you so much.
And we have just to plug in, next Sunday we have DoubleBlind has a breath work and also some skills on facilitating trip sitting. It'll be kind of combination. And then on that's all same time next week. And then on August 10th we have a cannabis ceremony meditation. And thank you all for being here. And Stephen, since you offered also to talk to people's parents, can we share your email with people?
You
Is that
can do that.
What is it, Daddy?
Okay.
What is it?
You can
I'll
use
send it to you, Maxwell. Yeah.
I put it in the chat because I saw what you signed up
Okay,
with this.
great.
And thank you so much for that offer. I think I would like to I would like to take you up on that at some point.
Take him up on it. He loves doing
Conversations
this
with my
thing.
dad.
Okay, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And the recording will be available and I will send it out to everybody. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks you for supporting DoubleBlind Psychedelic Journalism, and have a wonderful and transformative day ahead. And I hope you all continue with this slow but important work with your family. It's tough, but also it's just so, I was crying seeing how beautiful that was for you both. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
So much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.